Conversation with Bob Pollock of the Extension, brought to you by Marcus Mack, a law firm representing injured people. All right, boys and girls, you can give them a call, 479-1160, if you have things to discuss with Mr. Pollock about lawns, gardens, trees, and such, and insects, too. Bob, those ladybugs are out there now. They're going nuts, aren't they?
Yeah, especially now that we're getting some sunny days and warm weather, things were maybe starting to slow down a little bit and begin that process of overwintering in whatever stage they're going to overwinter in.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, insects overwinter in various stages. So we have some insects that overwinter as an egg.
Mm-hmm.
So the adults, a lot of times in the fall, will lay eggs, and then those eggs will overwinter, and they might do that on plant surfaces, for instance, trees.
Okay, I have a caller on the line. Let's ask her to turn her line
Okay.
or for her radio down, and then we'll get to her question. But yeah, it is overwintering season, and they're looking for nice warm places to spend their winters. All right, let's talk to our caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. What can we do for you?
I have a poinsettia question.
Okay.
I know that you're supposed to put it in the dark now, but I was wondering, are you still supposed to water it when it's in the dark or not?
Good question.
So we're keeping that plant actively growing. So the answer would be yes, water as needed, because you're going to put it in the dark for at least 12 hours a night, complete darkness, and then you're going to bring it back out into the sunlight during the day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you don't want to leave it in. You don't want to leave it in the dark 24/7. We want to do that at night. So we want to have this dark period, and then we want to bring it back out so that it can function, because it still needs to function and photosynthesize each day. And we also want to keep it growing. If we just left it in the dark, you'd end up with leaves on the floor and sticks to look at.
So I'm gonna get my exercise, aren't I?
There you go.
Charlie Brown tree. We're not looking for that look this time.
It's the Charlie Brown poinsettia.
Okay.
All right, so she is to.
Right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. So she is to keep that thing watered.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to. Yes, we're trying to keep it actively growing. It's just that during the night we need a darkness. Otherwise, just even little bits of light, sometimes even light that might come through a window, whether it be, and usually moonlight isn't enough to do that, but if you have outdoor lighting or pole lights or things like that, or even if somebody comes in a room and turns the light on, that can be enough to interrupt that period of darkness, and then it has to start all over again.
Yeah. Hey, we have another caller. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. I'm just wondering, can you still get Lyme's disease this time of the year? Are the deer ticks still active?
The answer is, oh, yes, you can. Right, Bob?
Correct. Most definitely. Yes, those insects are still very active. And on a day like today, if you went out in the woods, there's a good chance that they're going to be just hanging around waiting to hitch a ride on someone or something.
They're waiting for lunch, and you're the lunch.
So if you're doing leaves this time of the year, it's best to be cautious.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they won't. So you need to be. So if you're in an area where deer frequent, if they come right through your yard every day, every night, that's yes, for sure. If you're in an area where you have limited wildlife movement and things like that, or if you're away from the woods, then it's not as much of an issue. But yes, it's always... Yeah. And they don't tend to just be on leaves. They're going to be on grass, plants. Say you mow a trail, and on either side of that trail you have grasses that are coming up. And then as you walk down that trail, as you brush against some of that stuff, that's where they'll be hanging out on those plants, and then they can just get attached to you that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's your ride.
Yeah. In fact, I was reading in... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, do the squirrels and the birds, can they also have them on them?
It's possible, yes. So your dogs, cats, anything can kind of help be a carrier and move those around. If they decide, mice, if they decide to get attached to them, anything warm-blooded, then yes, that can move them around and bring them on site.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The amazing woodland creatures that are out there trying to kill us.
Yeah.
What did?
Well, not necessarily trying, but it can happen just as they try to do their normal functions.
Yeah. What did Tim Allen say on Last Man Standing when Ed Elzonte said that the tick is the perfect killing machine? And Tim Allen said, "Well, I don't think so. If the way to defeat it is to tuck your pants into your socks." But,
yeah.
But yeah, they are very dangerous. And I was reading an article the other day that said that right now is the most active season for deer ticks. So they're out there.
Yep, as the seasons start to change, and as leaves fall, and there's less activity, we can have more activity in the woods at this time of year, and then those insects are also, especially the nymphs, can be there waiting to get a blood meal, which they use as their source of subsistence, and along the way can cause us some major issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so just all those precautions when you go out and walk to make sure that you're covered, that you have the right clothing on, and there's various clothing and ways to do that, and tucking the pants and all that sort of stuff to help minimize any contact, and then of course checking when you get back, and checking your animals. That's a huge thing, because you can very easily be out and then bring those right indoors.
Yep. All right, we're talking with Bob Pollock this morning. Bob, last week we were talking about chopping up leaves as opposed to burning leaves. People have their preferred methods of disposing of leaves, and there are a lot of trees that are mysteriously holding on to their leaves this year, I think more than ever before for the middle of November coming up. But that being the case, there still are plenty of them on the ground. That it's probably a good idea when we have this good weather this weekend to get rid of them, even though others are going to fall down, because otherwise you're doing everything at once, and it makes it even a harder job.
Right, yeah, that bulk, doing it little bits at a time can make the job a lot easier. For sure. And we really, there's some spots that have really not had, that hard freeze yet. Down into the 20s. There's spots that have, but a lot of places that just hasn't occurred. So a lot of leaves have come down, and then some of the oaks, especially, and there's a few other plants as well that are hanging on, and some hang on to those leaves for most of the winter.
Yeah. Oak trees are rude. Oak trees will do that. They'll throw acorns at you and hold on to their leaves until the day you get everything else raked up.
That's right. And they can be the gift that keeps on giving all winter long, too, because they'll lose a few here and they'll lose a few there, and then the wind blows them, and you thought you had everything cleaned up, and not the case.
Not the case at all. So yeah, it's going to be a great weekend for getting out there and doing that. When you have weather like this in the month of November, what are some other things we should be doing outdoors to prepare for the coming winter?
And just continuing that general cleanup. You can do some pruning and things. It can definitely be done now. It's a lot easier to do that, and especially if you have some dead branches and things that you can get to safely, to do those, or to have somebody come in and take care of that properly, just to help clean that up and prevent any potential damage from storms or wind over the winter months. That can all be helpful. We can still plant things, so you can still put some perennials in the ground, trees, shrubs. We're having a very nice stretch here where you can get that job done.
Nurseries are still going to have those items?
A lot. they will have the supply that they have. They're not going to be getting anything in new right now, but anything that they have, because they'll overwinter that anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So unless they've put that away for the winter completely, it's still, I'm sure they'd much rather sell that than to have to keep it over winter.
They'd much rather you have to take care of it than they do.
Right, and you can get started. If we wait till next year, we've lost a season there. We can still get, and at this point in the year, we're not trying to really grow that plant, but we're trying to let it get a little bit established, and the soil temperatures are still high enough that's what happens. We can get some root growth. We can get that plant to grow a little bit through the root system. We're not going to get any top growth, but we're not attempting to do that. We just want to be able to get that in the ground and get it started. And it can be easier to do that at this time of year because we usually don't have to water things as often. And there's another caution about this leaf cleanup and burning. We really are dry, and we just really need to avoid, put them in a pile. They will rot down, and hopefully you have a place to do that. Or spread, or spread them, take them and spread them back out in the woods. But try to avoid burning the leaves this time of year, especially with as dry as it is.
Yeah, that's a good plan. All right. Robert, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.